This lesson will be on the switch statement. So there's a couple pieces to the switch statement: the actual switch keyword itself, then an integral expression here. So you could have something like int x equals 5, and then you could say switch, and then x would be in here. And then a case statement for every case you want to test. So if you're interested in the numbers 1 through 5, you'd have case 1 colon, then whatever statements you want to have, and then a break. The break is optional, but if you don't have it, the code will just keep following through to the next case, and it'll keep executing almost never what you want, and tends to be confusing even if it is what you want. There's usually better ways to achieve that. And then there's also this default keyword. So when none of the cases match, it'll execute the statements that are under the default. So you generally want to reserve this for unexpected input and to put out an error message. And the switch statement ends, so there's nowhere for it to go, so you don't need this break. But it looks like Codan always gives you a warning about it if you don't put it. So I usually will put it there just to make Codan happy. All right, so let's go look at this in Eclipse. So for an example, let's get some input from, let's get an integer input from the console input. And we'll put all this inside a do while loop, just so we get some exposure to some of the recent things we've tested or been talking about. So do while the input is not equal to 0, say, we're going to stay inside our loop here. And let's give ourselves a prompt and say, please enter a number between 1 and 3. Enter a 0 to quit. Okay, and our semicolon there. And then let's go ahead and just get our input and put it in a variable that we declared called input. And now we'll do something based on that input, and we'll use the switch statement to decide what that is. So using the Eclipse's little, it fills it in for me here. I should do that again, I guess, a little quick. So you just type I'm just going to type SW, hit Control Space, and so I'm using that switch case statement there at the end. So the key I want to switch on is input, and then it gives me one case statement by default. So I'll say if this is 1, and then my statement will go here. And then I can cut and paste and put my other case statements for 2 and 3, and for the default case. So normally you put everything in numerical order. I'm going to do it just to show you that it works. They don't have to be. So I'll put the case for, because 0 is also a valid input, and I'll put that down here. And you don't want to you don't want to test for 0 in the default clause. The default is for things you aren't expecting the user ever to enter. So you save that for error conditions or just unusual things have happened and you want to know about them. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to say about the switch as well is you can do a switch with a series of if-else statements with what's called an if-else ladder, but it's not as efficient. With an if-else ladder, every case has to be tested, and they're tested in the order you write them. With a switch, most compilers will generate a jump table, and they'll jump right to the correct case statement. And with 3, it's not such a big deal, but if you have 10 or 20 or more, and your eye tends to be, it's a little easier to read, I think, case statements than if-then-else ladders. It's a little easier for your eye to find the case and get just to the area for the case you're interested in. Okay, so let's do something here unusual. We'll just use cout so that we can see that when each case executes. So let's assume you're picking a game to play, and we'll just print out a message. So if you pick 1, you've got this game, and I just reformatted the code. And so don't forget your break statement, right? Otherwise it'll just fall down and print out the message we're going to put under 2. Okay, and just save some typing time. And I'll point out one other thing, and that is trying to do something like this inside a case statement. Creating a new variable here, int x, give it a value. You're seeing this, well, you did see a warning, but now went away. But if we try and compile this, we should get an error here. You're not allowed to create variables in a case statement because it's just a scoping rule. All of these case statements are inside the same scope, so it doesn't like it when you create something on the stack in one case statement that doesn't get created in other case statements. So it doesn't know if this will always get executed or not. So then I imagine what happens at cleanup time, it doesn't know to get rid of something. So the way around that, if you're doing some code that needs to have a new variable, or it just makes your code cleaner to have a new variable, what you do, perfectly legal, is just start a new scope. Just put an open brace and a close brace in there, and then if we use this, just do something silly like just print it out. So now with these braces, and when I rebuild, the errors will go away, and this is valid. So you'll come across this. It's a if I take it back out, I forget the error is a little strange sounding. Let's see what it says here. Crosses initialization of int x. So if you get that error, you kind of know what it means now. Okay, so if it's 0, we don't actually need to do anything. This is gonna do our break and go down, and the while execute, and this will be 0, so it will exit. So we'll just, so that we see it happen, we'll just put a message here like that. And then let me give you an example of some things that will fall through. So let's say we think people, normally this could go in the default, but just because I want to show you the fall through, 7, 8, case 9. Okay, so what happens is if the user enters a 6, 7, 8, or 9, any of these are going to print out this message. So we'll just say no soup for you. Okay, and put a line feed like that, and again, remember your break statement here. Okay, then here under the default, we can put an error message. So you have entered unexpected. Okay. And then, like I said, this break isn't required, but it makes code analysis happy, so I leave it in. And we forgot our semicolon here. So let's build that. Let's make our console window a little bit bigger, and let's go ahead and run. And so it's waiting for input. So if we enter 1, we've chosen to play thermonuclear war. If we enter a 2, a nice game of chess. 3, playing D&D. 4, unexpected input, because actually I hit return first, then 4. So, oh, okay, well I didn't put 4, I meant to put all the other ones in here. I didn't put 4 and 5, so they're just dumping into the default. So now if I hit 6, you get the no soup for you, and if you hit 7, you'll get that. 8, 9, and then 0 eventually will quit. So that is the case statement. I'm sorry, that is the switch statement, and those are the various ways you can use case. And like I said, this works for integral types, so enumerations, integers, any class that can be converted to an integer. It will not work on strings, doubles, floats. So it has some limits that you don't have with an if statement. So, but when you can use it, it's better to use this than a big long chain of if then else's.